Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the ROS Media channel. We are live on our socials as well. So if you're joining us on social media, great to have you with us. Today, I'm back again with Ian, our founder and president of the Republic of Old Souls. Ian is responsible for all of our protocols and for delivery of the information of those protocols on our weekly flagship webinars that we do every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. UK time. And today, what we're going to do is cover last week's webinar, June 6th, all the questions that you put to us. So we're going to go through all of those critical questions that came directly from you, our members, surrounding the 945 tax module and signature credit tax redirection webinar that we did on Saturday. We uncovered on that webinar, if you didn't join us, the very inconvenient truth that the banks hope you never discover. And that is that every time you make a transfer, sign a credit agreement, sign for a loan, you are the creator of that currency. So what I want you to do is listen closely to Ian's answers, because at the end of today's session, we're also going to discuss in brief this coming Saturday's webinar, where we're going to take this to the next level, and we're going to show you how to register for that. So Ian, great to have you with us. Let's dive into the questions that we had from the members. I've broken them down into categories. We've got 5 in total. The first one is really just to do with the mechanics of banking itself and currency creation, as you call it. And the very first question we've got is, if I make a bank transfer and new money is created, what happens to the old money that left my account? So again, there's a knowledge gap here, clearly. And this, I'm playing devil's advocate. This may be from a brand new person who's not been on our webinars before.
Yeah, well, the illusion is that you're transferring funds from one account to another. Of course, that's what the banks want you to believe. But what's really going on is the new payment, let's call it a payment, is a new negotiable instrument. It's a new security, a new promise to pay in the future, which then creates new debt and increases the amount of debt in circulation. So the energy that originated and created the balance that you've got in your account, it probably wasn't yours. It was probably somebody else's. And it gets abandoned. The banks are actually using it. They what's called hypothecate that abandoned human energy. They use it and they expand their profits by using it. So it doesn't disappear. It just gets used by the banks as nominees, and they hypothecate. They make profit from it, whilst all these new securities are being created. So there's a never-ending supply of new securities being created every moment of every day, 24/7, where it appears that funds are moving around. Well, they're not actually. It's just ledgers. It's just new ledger entries that look like bank transfers, but they're not actually transfers of anything. It's just a new ex nihilo credit creation event that's being registered on the ledgers that is adding to the world debt. If you look on the world debt clock, your bank payment, your mortgage loan or credit card is just adding to that. As soon as you sign up for it, it's just adding a bit, a tiny fraction of that, because there's all these other people doing the same thing, of course.
Okay. So next question, Ian, is if my wage was being put into someone else's account because I didn't have one, does this create a problem for signature credit tax redirection?
Well, it's not what comes in or what appears to come in that counts. It's what goes out. So if your friend is receiving your wages and they're using it, they're spending it, then that's a problem for you, because you can't recoup signature credit or tax redirection unless you are using a bank account that you're spending from. And you could get your friend to do signature credit tax redirection and you could share with them, I'm sure. But you actually want, unless you can't get a bank account, you really want to get your own account and start using your ability to create these negotiable instruments, these promises to pay in the future from your own account. Yeah. When I say your account, it's actually the account in the name of the ens legis, in the name of the birth certificate construct. But if you can't get a bank account, yeah, you can use a proxy, and then you can get the proxy to redirect the taxes, and then you can share with them in some way, or you can come up with an arrangement that works.
I guess as well, obviously that's moving forwards, but a lot of people have been in good situations that are now in very bad situations because of the economy and because of the cost of living crisis. And maybe just because whoever this is, they don't have a bank account now, doesn't mean they've never had one, doesn't mean they've never had a mortgage, doesn't mean they've never had a credit card. So there's nothing stopping you from going back, as we've mentioned, historically back to the age of 18 and being able to recoup previous bank accounts, mortgages, credit cards, and loans, just because you don't have one now. But certainly would be a good idea maybe to have one moving forwards. But then, do you really need one if you're going to have the Asset Fortress with its own private bank account and its own private treasury anyway? So think on that as well. What have you done previous to the situation that you're in right now? And if you've had the bank accounts and any other kind of mortgages, loans, credit cards, doesn't stop you from historically recouping those or redirecting the taxes from those either. Next question, Ian, is can previous credit agreements, so this is kind of in line with what we've just been saying, can previous credit agreements, unsecured loans, credit cards be recouped by way of the bank failing to disclose the ex nihilo out of nothing fact, and the fact that a bill of exchange nominee is created? I even have some credit agreements that were never signed by the bank that have had monthly payments deducted.
Well, of course, it doesn't matter what the banks are doing with their paperwork. It's kind of irrelevant. It's not going on at the level, at the clearing bank level. The taxes are being paid at the top of the ledger by the investment banks, which are holding these promises to pay, these negotiable instruments in their tranches via the depository trust company and its subsidiary Seeding Company, which I've written about in my recent research reports. So it doesn't matter what the local bank's doing or what the credit agreement says or whether it was signed. The fact is that a security was created and that is being sold, and it forms part of the hypothecation model which the investment banks are playing to expand their profits. And they're almost certainly paying taxes for the use of the human energy that created it. Whether it was signed correctly, whether it was registered correctly, doesn't really matter. If the bank claims that there was a loan generated, then you can guarantee that they've sold that as a security into the investment bank market. So it doesn't really matter. I've seen a lot of people, looking at mortgage contracts and saying they weren't signed correctly, and there was banks forged signatures on mortgage contracts and all these kind of things. It doesn't really matter because the event that counts is the signature, and that is based on an intention. It's not based on a physical signature. It's not based on whether a contract was executed correctly or not. It's just based on the intention. In the same way as you can flash your card or your phone on a card reader, and it makes a transaction. When you get a mortgage loan or credit card, it's the intention. That's the signature. Whether it's ratified by a properly executed contract doesn't really matter. They've created a security, and that's what you want, because that's going to add to the amount of tax redirection that you can do here.
Okay. So let's move on to the next section, which is to do with the protocols and this $2 million limit that you speak of as well. The first question is, do I understand correctly that when purchasing the From 18 protocol, there is a limit of 2 million being recouped, but when you purchase the Infinite Money protocol yearly, there is no limit? Is it smarter to first recoup the last 3 years, including the mortgage protocol, and then do the From 18 protocol to get the best results? I think there's definitely some confusion here over what you can and can't do. It's not specific to each protocol, so maybe you just want to elaborate on that, Ian, and clarify that for the member.
Yeah, it's confusing because we've had programs in the past that were called bank payment recoupments, and people were involved in those. And that was pre me realizing that there was a manual review limit of $2 million per tax year per grantor. So when you create a grantor trust, that grantor trust has a limit, limited to the grantor, of $2 million without their invoking a manual review of the tax redirection, which we don't want to get involved in. So it doesn't matter what makes up the recoupment, whether it's bank payments, mortgages, loans, credit cards from the past. Going forward, there is a $2 million per tax year limit without invoking a manual review. So you scoop it all up in the same tax filing, and then you've got $2 million per year going forward. That's the easiest way of looking at it. So don't try and do it all in 1 year. If you've got more than 2 million, you can spread it out going forward, and then you can spend and recoup. And eventually you probably won't be spending $2 million a year. I'm sure I don't know that many people that can sustain that for that many years. But that's what you'll be doing, and it doesn't matter what it's called. The actual filing is from a grantor trust, and that is the $2 million a year cap per grantor of a trust. You could have 10 trusts, but one grantor, it's still $2 million cap per tax year.
Okay. So next question then is the 2 million limit on tax recoupment, in addition to the bank recoupments and the mortgage recoupments, 2 million does not cover the extensive global philanthropy I'm trying to establish?
Yeah, and I understand that some of the members, wanted to recoup, tens of millions, and that isn't going to be possible per grantor. But you could get a syndicate of grantors together, and you could achieve the objective. So if you had 10 who were all working on a project together, and they've all got a 2 million limit cap, then you've now got 20 million if you've got 10 people at 2 million each. And that's what I would suggest if you're trying to do some kind of project financing, is to get a portfolio of grantors together and go into the process collectively, because it's 2 million per grantor. But if you had 10 grantors and you're running a project, I'm sure you can find a number of people that are involved in that project that would do that. So
yeah, that's an easy fix. Okay, if the recoupments are above 2 million, can a mortgage or bank recoupment be reduced down and part of it claimed to keep the amount below the limit?
Yeah, that's exactly what you'll do. If you had, say, 5 million, you can't recoup it all in 1 year, so you spread it out over 2-3 years going forward. And many people are in that situation. And then, of course, you've got spend and recoup cycles where you want to maintain that, if you can, that 2 million a year. If you want to maximize the amount that you recoup over time going forward, then you would spend. I mean, the easiest way of achieving that, if you want to build real wealth, is to acquire physical gold. You're spending to acquire gold. You store that gold as an asset in your asset fortress protocol, and then you recoup whatever it is you've spent on the gold plus your other spending, areas, and then you recoup and you buy more gold, so you can accumulate a very large amount of physical gold. That's what certainly I think the smartest people will be doing.
Definitely. Okay. And the final question in this section, Ian, is just to clarify, are we still claiming for the face value of the mortgage times 3 the amount, or just the face value only?
Well, it's the face value. The value of ex nihilo credit is zero when you put it onto the monopoly board, and it's the face value that is discounted back each year. So 3 times the face value. It's possible that you get away with it because it may well go through the system, but it's much safer. Just look at the face value of the mortgage. That's the value that you're adding into your overall total.
Yeah, and I think the fact that, like we've said, you can go back to age 18. Most people are going to come up to that 2 million limit, aren't they, on average, by the time they've gone that far back. So not essential that you think about claiming 3 times your mortgage face value to increase the amount, because there's plenty more you can go back to and recoup from age 18 anyway. Okay, let's move on to the next section then, Ian, which is to do with the trusts and asset protection as well. And the first question is, what's the difference between the foreign grantor trust and the ministerial trust?
So a foreign grantors trust is, it is a basically, it's a trust entity. It's a trust with an EIN number, and a ministry is a different type of trust. They're both actually trusts, but one is used for ministerial activities, and one is used for treasury and property, property protection. So they are both trusts, but they have a different purpose. And you can use an ecclesiastical ministry trust for storing assets and running a private treasury. But that's more appropriate if you are a US resident, or you're the agent for a US resident, because that's going to enable you to privately run the private treasury without being audited by the IRS, which you don't want if you're operating a 98 series foreign grantors trust as a US resident or an agent of a US resident. You want the ministry. So they are similar. There's slightly different purposes. US resident or agents of US residents will run the risk of being audited if they're running a grantor trust, but not if they're running a ministry or an ecclesiastical ministry.
Okay, perfect. So next question, how does the Asset Fortress Trust avoid digital currencies, i.e. CBDCs?
Well, it's not a question of avoiding them. It's a question of being able to use dollars still, which will, in my opinion, not go away. There will be stable coins, and you look into my research into the Genius Act and the Clarity Act. I talk all about this in my research papers. The dollar, the fiat currency, isn't going away. They're just they're adding additional digital currencies alongside it, which is commonly known as stable coins. But the dollar itself, the fiat currency dollar, isn't going away. They're just merging these stable coins in alongside. So it may well be that going forward, you'll be using dollars from your Asset Fortress protocol. And if that ever gets completely discontinued, then I'm sure you'll be doing digital stable coins from your Asset Fortress. But at the moment, you can do digital dollars.
Okay. So next question. This is an interesting one. How does this work in countries that do not traditionally recognize trusts, such as Scandinavia?
It's a very good question, but you're not setting up the trust in Scandinavia. It's a foreign grantors trust. So it's foreign to the United States, and anyone can set up a foreign grantors trust. Even if you lived on the moon, you could set up a foreign grantors trust. It doesn't matter where you live. It matters where the trust operates, and the trust is an international trust entity. But the most important aspect of it is it's foreign to the United States. So if you're in Sweden and you want to run this, then you absolutely can set up a foreign grantors trust, where the trust itself is not operating in Sweden and it's not operating in the United States. It's an international trust. It's operating on its own, if you like, within its own. It's almost like its own nation is how it's going to operate.
Okay. And then the final question in this section, Ian, is if the IRS is disbanded and US taxation eliminated, will the Clifford Protocol still be able to be used for signature credit?
Yeah, I've heard this before, and I think there's some information flowing around the internet about the IRS is going to be, Trump's going to disband it and get rid of taxes and things like this. I think it's absolute nonsense. The United States Treasury is the bankruptcy trustee for the entire world. So unless they get rid of the existing system altogether, you're going to have the US Department of Treasury. You can't operate this system without them. So it's not going to go away anytime soon. For me, it's a system that works extremely well. I don't see any reason why taxes will go away. That's a system that works extremely well as well. So to me, it's a myth. It's a bit like Nasara Jasara and other myths that flow around, and QAnon that flows about. These things are lacking substance, and they're illogical to me. That you've got a system that's taken over 100 years to build. Why would you get rid of it when it works so well? It's not going to happen for me.
No. Plus, it's not localized to the US, is it? Like you said, they are the bankruptcy trustee for the entire global economic system as we know it. So it would affect everything. Okay, moving on to the next section, Ian, which is to do with mortgages, foreclosures, and just some practical timelines as well. We've got 4 questions here. First one is, I am in the appeal court asking for a stay on the foreclosure of our home for 30 years. If I can produce the QSIP in court, will it help delay things until I can join the action in New York? I have a grantor trust and an EIN. Is there anything else that can help delay things when going into the lion's den?
Well, you are going into the lion's den, and it's very difficult to get out of that lion's den unless you are filing in New York, which wouldn't be you personally. It would be a grantor trust that would be establishing itself as the holder in due course of the mortgage. And there are multiple of these going on at the moment, which I hope to be talking about fairly soon. So you can't just use the QSIP number. It's not going to help you. They're not going to recognize it. They're going to say they don't care about it. What you need is a foreign grantors trust. You need to file 1099 OID with that QSIP number for the mortgage as part of a tranche. You need to evidence that the mortgage itself has been discharged at the top of the ledger. And I've recently written a case study for Melanie Clark, which you can find on our Telegram channel, and it's also on the Ecclesia Law Institute. That's what you've got to do. We're not ready to facilitate that for our members yet, because it's going through a pilot scheme at the moment. I hope to bring a solution for that going forward, because I think it will be very popular. But at the moment, the best thing to do, and I don't know the situation, is to look at the procedure, whatever the procedure is that the bank is running for this foreclosure. There's probably some weaknesses with it somewhere. And I would be focusing on the art of legal warfare, which is to identify the weaknesses in the opponents in the bank's filings and trying to stall things until we're ready with our mortgage discharge program, which will be discharging at the very, very top of the ledger So that kind of watch this space on that, because it's something that I do want to offer, but we need to prove it works first. I'm confident we will, because I can't see how the banks are going to defend against it. But once we've got some success at the New York court, then we can bring in some kind of facilitated program or AI, kind of program that can help the members with their own mortgage discharges.
Okay. So next question, what happens if the mortgage got repossessed? I'm now told I owe money and I'm no longer with the bank. Can I still claim?
Well, this is where banks, repossess, and then they claim that there's still debt owed because the mortgage was in excess of the value of the property, probably.
Yes.
Or so they say, because they've got a nice little racket going on that. So, it doesn't affect the redirection of taxes. Signature credit doesn't have any effect on that. And it's probably the best way to get out of that problem is to recoup the face value of the mortgage. If there is still a debt, discharge it and then recoup the discharge going forward. So that will hopefully solve that problem, get rid of that problem altogether.
Perfect. Next question, Ian. I had one account from 1992 to 2021, which was closed by my bank. Can I still recoup from this account, even if it was closed?
Yeah, you can't change the past, and all of those securities, those promises to pay that you made from that bank account. I had a similar experience with the bank account that my father opened for me when I was a little lad. I had it all the way up until 2023, and it was closed, Lloyds Bank. So I understand the problem. It's closed because of my friends at the FCA. So I had this account for coming up 60 years, and then suddenly it was closed. It doesn't mean that I can't use that account for signature credit tax redirection, because all of those securities were created via that account. So the fact that it's closed makes no difference to the signature credit tax redirection.
Okay. And the final question in this section is, I have 2 or more mortgages with the same bank at different times. How do I record these on the mortgage calculator? Do I do it separately, or do I just combine them?
It's best to do it separately, because they're probably taken out at different times. So I would make it 2 entries, same lender, probably different amounts, probably different points in time when they were taken out.
Okay. And then the next question is just to do with onboarding new people. So I think this is more an advocate style question as well that came through. And the question is this, Ian: when trying to convince people to join in with the protocols, how do I answer their question? Have you gotten any money in your account yet? Because the answer currently is no, I haven't. And that seems to stop the conversation.
Well, a lot of people are waiting, for our members to be running around the streets, shouting, we've now got it, here we are, we've got our signature credit, and then of course everybody in that street will want to join in, and there won't be enough slots available. The reality is that we've shown the evidence. We have had signature credit tax redirection. People have banked it, have spent it, never had it clawed back. And Andy and Ange did the video that showed components of the 600 million success from 2025.
Yeah.
So if you've got people that say, I'm only going to get interested in this when you've got your signature credit tax redirections in your account, well, they're probably going to be joining that long queue of people that won't get on board very easily. So if that's their mentality, I would move on to somebody else that's more interested in getting on board early, because those that wait may not even get on at all.
Yeah, absolutely true. So that ends the questions, Ian, for our Q&A. So quite a short one today, but certainly there's more to talk about. Let's look at next steps, because you've asked questions, you've been curious, we've given you the answers to those questions, and many of the questions that we get, we have answered them multiple times as well already on previous Q&A sessions. The truth is that I think the gap between those who don't understand and those who will experience financial freedom is education followed by execution. So it's great that you come to the webinars. It's great that you ask questions, but if you do nothing with that, once you've got clarity, if you just sit back and watch these Q&As without taking any action, or you ask a question on the webinar, but you don't follow through and watch the updates, like this one that we're doing right here, we spend hours doing these, don't we, Ian? You're not going to have any measure of understanding on how this is going to impact your life. So this Saturday, we are holding another webinar. We do it every week. So we've got a live webinar masterclass coming up this Saturday. If you want to attend that, Ian is going to go into more detail about turning the tables on the banks and how you can be a part of this. So your immediate directive, I would say, is first of all, if you're not registered, register for the webinar, okay? You can do that by going here. If you go to roswebinars.is, you can register for the webinar this coming Saturday. If you would like to know more information or really dig into the technicalities behind the protocols, then you can see all of Ian's reports here at ecclesialaw.is. There's 60, 70 reports on there that Ian's written, covering every single aspect of signature credit tax redirection and the historical evidence behind this that backs it all up. Everything to do with the IRS, their publications and their coding, everything to do with the UCC coding, everything to do with HJR 192, Article 1212. It goes on and on and on and on, guys. So if you really want to dig into the meat and potatoes of this, then definitely go to ecclesialaw.is and look at Ian's reports. If you prefer to do it this way and you like to watch the content that we do put out, then you can go to the media channel. So rosmediaplatform.is is where all of our videos are. To that person's question about, I haven't gotten any results yet and I'm finding it difficult to have those conversations with people, the video that I ran with Ange is on the ROS Media platform there. It's a 20-minute video where we go in depth into tax transcript evidence and we show that on screen with all the numbers attached there. So there's plenty of stuff that you can use. There's ammunition there that you can use for people who are maybe sitting on the fence with this. But initially, as they say, if you want to help other people, then you need to put the mask on. You need to put the air mask on, the oxygen mask on yourself first before you help others. So come to the webinar on Saturday is what I would recommend, 10 a.m. sharp UK time. Register here. You can share your referral link if you have one, if you've got friends, family, or partners who are facing, heavy credit card bills, mortgages, or just the general cost of living. Get them on the webinar at the weekend. Stop playing defense against the system that relies on your compliance. Claim your signature credit tax redirection back. And we would love to have you on the webinar where Ian's going to go into that in a lot more detail. So appreciate you watching us today. I hope you've enjoyed it. We've answered all your questions. No doubt there'll be a ton more questions coming up this Saturday. So when you register for the webinar, if you do have a question, you can ask a question at registration. If you have a question that comes to mind when you're watching the content, there is a Q&A tab. You can post your questions in there live on the webinar. I then collate all of those questions together and we'll be back here this time next week doing the same thing again on our webinar Q&A that we do every single week. So that's all I've got, Ian. Any final thoughts before we let everybody go?
Well, we launched an avatar. We had to change direction because it was banned. Because the actual platform that we were using obviously is involved in censorship. So we've had to pull it off the market. It wouldn't work anymore. And we're in the process of relaunching a version that won't get censored. And that's the easiest way, I think, to get more familiar and to get your questions answered. You'll have that available to you. You'll be able to use it. You'll be able to share it if you're an advocate or if you just want to spread the word. You can earn rewards points, $100 for sharing it with someone who uses it for more than 10 minutes. And it's like a permanent knowledge base. So that's going to be a really big thing, I think, going forward. Come to the webinars, read my research papers, come to the ROS Media channel where Andy and I every week go through Q&As and go through previews and different subjects. Just get to know how this works. I don't think you'll be sorry to learn this if you're very new to it. And if have you been around a while and you're waiting for your signature credit, I'm sure that there's more to learn. So keep coming to the webinars, keep spreading the word, I really think it is life-changing information that will assist. Not everybody will do this, not everybody can do this, but I think the information comes to people when they need it, and some people don't need it. So maybe not everybody you're talking to wants to know about it because it doesn't suit their time frame. They're not ready. But there's lots of people out there who are ready for this, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Guys, I hope that you've enjoyed our session today. Looking forward to the next one. We're going to be doing a Q&A together on hypothecation and what that is as well. So look out for that one. But for now, enjoy the rest of your day. Hope to see you on the webinar Saturday morning, 10 a.m. sharp. And if not, we will see you on the next episode. Bye for now.